starting off with Shivani. Thank you for joining us. Mark, Al, Faraz. And for the rest of the introductions, we'll go to you, but I'll start with myself. Like Aditya said, I'm Hastu. I lead the growth efforts for us in the region, and just super excited to have all of you here. Specifically, our panel, we've got a very diverse group from an industry perspective. I almost want to tell a joke about how a banker and an investor and an entertainer and FMCG consumer goods seller walk into a bar. But no, Shivani, if you want to start us off and introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you, your background, and go from there.
There you go. I'm a banker. Hi, I'm Shivani Srivastava. Excited to be on this panel with such cool, diverse panelists. I am a VP of Martech Products at Discover. Specifically, when I think about Martech, the word came much later than the actual products. This has been here forever, and I've seen it change from the days of database marketing and direct mail, which we still do, to the digital customer journey experiences that we are all trying to, get better at. So thank you for having me.
Mark?
Great. Hi, I'm Mark. I'm an operating partner focused on digital transformation for H.I.G Capital. We're a private equity firm that has about $58 billion of assets under management, a couple hundred portfolio companies. And my job really is just to partner with companies across a variety of cycles and stages and ensure that they're leveraging technology and as efficient as possible in their marketing.
Cool. So myself, Al. So I'm the head of product for Sling. So I'm the entertainer here. I don't know whether I can, get to that. But so I also, recently, included managing the product for Dish Network and all the video services that comes from the Dish board. So yeah, I have a very interesting journey, across from digital marketing perspective as well as from AI and MarTech perspective. Yeah, love to be here. Thank you.
Faraz?
Hi, everyone. My name is Faraz. I moved to US exactly 9 months ago, so still new to New York and US. I work for a company named Reckitt, which most people don't know, but I bet you have grown up with some of our brands. We make products like Lysol, Finish, Vanish, Gaviscon, Mucinex, Infamil. I lead the e-commerce and digital part of our nutrition business, which is primarily formula milk, called Infamil. And excited to be here.
Thank you. Again, thank you folks for joining us. Now, promise we will get to AI, but before that, Shivani, I wanted to start with you on just the topic of MarTech. Thousands and thousands of tools out there. What do you define as critical? What are the most important parts or pieces to that MarTech puzzle for you at Discover?
I was just looking at one of Rusty's slide up out there. There are 11,308, if I remember that number right now. Lots of stuff out there, and many of them have same words. It's very confusing. What do we want as a must-have? We want to market to that customer, right? But there's so many solutions out there that it becomes hard to understand what do we need. The way I look at it is through your marketer's lens and your customer's lens. What are you trying to do? Strategy needs to then lead to planning and creatives. Data needs to leads to audience that you want to target. And then you have delivery channels where you go, analytics to measure it. If you keep those 4 or 5 components in mind, right, your must-haves becomes anything. It could be, an MRM platform that does some basic workflow. It could be too sophisticated that does your spend optimization. It could be your content management system that is integral to some ecosystem or just meant for marketing. So it depends on what you're trying to solve for, but I would look at it must have as your MRM platform, creative management ecosystem, CRM or CDP platform, and absolutely a good channel delivery ecosystem to reach them.
All right. And Al, for you, from the perspective of an entertainment platform being in the customer's life day in and day out, is it any different?
Almost the same, but there is a nuance to it, right? So AI is an integral part of entertainment industry because, say for example, right, our catalog has about million titles. So if I market like everything to you, I'm not gonna be, good, right? I have to understand you, right? And also use AI in this case for sure, right? So because that is one of the places AI shines, recommendations, right? I know you are a sci-fi fan, and if I market to you exactly a sci-fi title, there is a good chance that you would love it, right? So yeah, so other than whatever Shivani covered, I would say AI to it.
Got it. And coming to you for us, Rec, it's a giant of an organization, lot of tools, of course. How do you show the value of a single tool? How do you show the value of marketing technology that's stitched together versus several siloed, disparate solutions? How do you do that up?
Well, the first thing is that to recognize that in your MarTech, there is no one standalone tool that will deliver all the value. It's the sum of all the tools that you have and how you connect them and how you put them out to use. And in that usage, there are many models which are in-house running it versus an outsourced through agency. And I think we have, as a company, over last 5-6 years, have gone through an entire range of extremes. And I think I can't conclude whether it's in-house versus outsourced. I think like they say, beauty is in the blend. So the sweet spot is somewhere in the middle.
All right, that makes sense. And Mark, you work with a lot of different companies. Now, for your portfolios, how do you show them the value of a seamless marketing technology stack?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, it's not about tools first. I think to our earlier point, it's actually about, I think a little bit different, like what's the customer experience, but also I always encourage we start with what's your growth model and where are your growth loops and where is value created in your business. And then we map what needs to get done and what tools can actually help get those things done. And by having it mapped directly to your growth model, if I'm, say, a community-driven platform, I can then all of a sudden understand, okay, a notification service with X latency might actually improve this metric right here, 5–10%. So then you can start to, doing some rough back-of-envelope modeling around what tooling makes sense for me. And then you can actually get into the, okay, well, now what tool is the best tool for my specific needs? But I always start first and foremost, like, let's prioritize, because I think, 2 years ago, 3 years ago when CDPs were hot, everyone's like, I need a full-featured CDP, and it's like, you're barely sending emails. Like, let's crawl, walk, run here. And then we would prioritize and tackle as we went.
All right. And talking about keywords, let's get to the keyword of the day, AI. Now, I'd love to go around and just one adjective that you would describe AI as for us. Let's start with you.
Evolution.
Interesting.
Disruptive.
In a good way or a bad way?
Both ways.
For today, distracting.
Right.
So I have to balance it. I'll say transformative.
All right, all right. And Shivani, while AI is transformative, there's a lot of noise around security, privacy, and data just out there. And as somebody you've spent decades in banking, you, of course, know and have seen just how important trust is. How do you balance that with the use of AI? And are there any frameworks, anything you're doing to make sure that trust and security and privacy is at the heart of everything AI that you do?
So just a definition of AI in my head, because from a banking perspective, we've been using AI, the predictive AI, right, for a long time for predicting what is that next best action, next best product that we should be putting in front. And then within those products, what is the offer that will bring that customer in? Being regulated industry in AI, we understand the need of data, which is the fuel of MarTech, right? And caring for it, right? By the way, every function should care for it. It's not just about marketing, but specifically bringing back to your topic, the digital growth in the last few decades that have happened, and as a result, the digital data and how it's being used and misused has led to, as we all know, lots of regulation, right? So if you keep in mind that you've got all of that data, that was not cataloged, you hadn't done classification of it, you didn't know what was going where. As a result, you were not caring for the customer, for the business, and now for the regulation, right? So you gotta really get your house in order. And the way I think about it is, in my head, I classify it as collect the data, right? And when you collect the data, have a way to classify it. Maybe you need to engage your privacy and regulation teams, compliance teams to help you understand what that classification looks like. And then when you act on it, take the ownership and responsibility that you're accountable for that data and its utilization. Whether it is suppressing it when you're creating your audiences, suppressing it before you are launching in a channel, respecting that customer's preferences, all of these places is a blend of people, processes, and technology. And specifically speaking of technology, there's a lot out there, right? You can do your consent management on tools like OneTrust, right? Again, I'm not advertising anything, just using a name out here for the sake of this, making it real. You gotta have a tag management solution where you can manage these CPRA regulations and doing the right based on the consent that that the customer has provided or not. You need to have your CDPs and audience platform to suppress that information, and then at the channel level, manage that communication at that last leg before it goes out. So there's a lot to do here from a people, again, privacy compliance, your own data stewards perspective, processes, and tech.
Got it. So having that seamless tech stack is incredibly important to making sure that you respect the privacy and security norms. But Al, what about you in the entertainment industry with Sling? How important a role is privacy and security when you're evaluating AI for what you do?
Yeah, I mean, in the past, privacy was always, the last thing that you think about. But right now, it is more the first thing, right? And how we handle user data is very important, right? So because they trust you, and you have to be very responsible of that. And it comes with two flavors to it, right? So whenever we evaluate any technology, right? So we first look for what type of privacy and security standards they have. And across MarTech, this is not just for AI, but anything that you have. And that's the first thing. When I joined, that's the first thing I did. Audited the full MarTech stack and saw where are the loopholes and what are the things not secure and all that. And AI, it brings very interesting challenge because when it comes to AI systems, privacy measurement is not that easy. Even the industry regulations are not caught up with it. So we are yet to have more regulations in this area. There are a lot of ethical considerations as well, because your data could be trained, using biased information, and you could get a lot different results. So yeah, it is going to be challenging, but we are trying to do the best by having more guardrails around it. You have to have a person in the middle, right? It is not you should not let your consumers directly interact with AI because it could create risky problems.
I want to be a little bit of a curmudgeon here, though, in that people think OpenAI and these generative AI technologies are being so nice of opening themselves to the public and letting us all interact with them, but that data is itself training the AI. Every time you click a thumbs up, a thumbs down, you're helping to train the model, but also all the data that's being used as an input will be used in future versions. If it was GPT 3.5, that data is now incorporated in 4. And a lot of organizations that in our portfolio we've been encouraging and saying, hey, you need to have a governance policy. You can't put any of your corporate data in here because you could be empowering your competition. And as a result, we've had to create a lot of private instances using the Microsoft Cloud in our situation to make sure that we're keeping that data private. The other thing we've seen is we've got a number of regulated industries, and AI's still relatively dumb, and it will optimize for what you're solving for without the guardrails. So unless you say, within the compliance framework of X, or to avoid XYZ regulatory, please make sure to consider this, it won't, and then you could be down the road finding out that you're de facto redlining, for example. So you have to be very, very careful and very, very explicit as you go down this path.
Right.
I 100% agree with you. Just to kind of add it to it, trusted data in a guardrailed way with governance, model, and a council is important before we even start thinking of scaling it.
One more thing I would like to add: if your company doesn't have an AI policy in your, data policy, you should definitely add that, because I started seeing companies who doesn't have it in the past started having it now, and even the schools have it. So I mean, I got a notification from a school in my neighborhood, right? So that that they are adding it. So yeah, if you are not, you should definitely do it.
Well, the takeaway from this discussion for me is AI is dumb, but no, but Mark, back to you.
AI is a brilliant genius, just a little bit clueless at times.
Fair, fair. But would you say, and I'm not going to say your portfolio, but the startups or the businesses that you speak with, would you say a large percentage of them already have AI policies and guardrails, or are people still a little clueless in figuring their way out?
I think it really depends on the stage of the organization. If you're a discover, I pray to God you've got one. It sounds like you do. Some of our growth stage organizations that might have a 20-person team, they're really working to find product market fit maybe, and that's a very different kind of world. What I encourage them to do though is instead of saying, thinking like, oh, you have to have it, it's more like, hey, crawl, walk, run. Like, here's a template, or even candidly, I developed one of our first AI policy templates using ChatGPT and asking it what considerations do we need to have, and just continuing in the prompts until we had what we thought was an effective policy. So you don't have to over-engineer it or overthink it. Just start somewhere.
Just ask ChatGPT to write you one, and
yeah, it's basically just
largely fine.
Regulate yourself. Yeah, but it actually was a good starting point for our legal team then to say, oh yes, those are some considerations, because a lot of legal teams I work with don't fully understand how the technology works, so they don't even understand how they need to write a policy about it.
All right, AI is dumb, legal does not understand technology. I'm loving this. All right.
Making all the friends today.
Yeah, well, let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about the good parts of AI, the use cases. What are we excited about? Faraz, I'd love to start with you. What use cases, what actual customer problems are you excited about AI being able to solve?
I mean, as a consumer, I'm excited about an era where I would be able to talk to a brand and not just see one-way communication of ads being thrown my way or service being adopted. And as a marketeer, as a commercial person, I am excited to be taking my brand to consumers in a way that they can interact with the brands. And I'll give you an example. Today, you will log on to any large language model, ChatGPT, Bard. You can talk to that in one session about anything in the world. What you receive back is logical, grammatically correct, and contextually accurate. And then you go to the brand chatbot experience and pick any industry. And including in the audience, I would love to be pointed to a brand which has a chatbot that gives you any half of that experience that you get with LLM, and be able to, for instance, I am in the formula milk business. There are a lot of anxieties linked with formula milk that mothers and fathers have. There are a lot of anxieties they deal with as their formula feed. And today, at best, what brands have to offer is a search result, go and read that article, and figure out what's happening. So I'm excited about an era as a consumer where most of my needs will be addressed this way. I'm excited where most of the needs that I'm serving will be addressed this way.
All right, yeah, so basically just having conversations versus you don't want to know you're talking to a computer, which is what chatbots are today.
Or a decision tree where you can interact and you can see that actually now I've come down this path, so these are only the 5 options that I can respond with.
Right, makes sense. How about you, Al? What are you excited about?
Yeah, I'm excited about a lot of things about AI, so I'm a big pro about it. Right. So the first thing is recommendation, which I already talked about. We were able to get to a level where we'll be able to exactly tell you whether you love Yellowstone or not. Right. So we are at that level, which is awesome because we've been doing it for a while. We try to curate stuff, but most of it doesn't work out. But AI does a very good job there. And then the second thing is modeling. Right. When it comes to predictive modeling, uplift modeling, churn prediction, all of that AI does it very well. So, but the only thing is, it's a garbage in, garbage out. So you have to know about the data that you're passing in to AI so that it can give you good results. So yeah, so overall MarTech modeling, I love it. So it's going to go to another level, right? So the third thing is search, right? I mean, most of the platforms, content discovery is a big problem, where we do have like a lot of good things to offer, but our users can't get it, right? So our searches are mostly, semantic, text-based searches. It doesn't work very well. It is not contextual, like Faraz was saying. It doesn't know that, you're looking for it. It cannot guess your mood or anything, right? But AI can do that. So that's the third one, right? And the last one I'm interested about is the personalization part of it, where, again, recommendation is a little bit of personalization, but again, I'm talking about more of content personalization, content creation, and all that. So where, that is one of the reasons when Ravi today pitched about the, AI, Gen AI product, and I was very impressed because today, when I try to do ChatGPT, right? So like we try this all the time. Like, I mean, whenever there is a campaign for NFL, right? So we write some stuff, okay? Ask ChatGPT, okay, come up with something interesting, right? It comes with exciting. The game is on at 6 p.m. Like, what? That's it, right? So, but with this, right? So it is kind of integrated in the workflow. I'm eager to try that. So we can get to a level where it comes up with exciting words, that makes you think like, okay, you know your customers, and it reflects your brand value, things like that. So these are the major 4 things I'm excited about.
Right. And Shivani, with all of this AI, how important do you think the human touch is and will be for at least the near future?
Speaking of AI, I do want to touch upon I was so excited to answer that question, actually, productivity. Oh my God. Like, that has been one of the things as a MarTech that I want to drive for my marketer is how do they, quickly reach that customer that they want to. And I feel like there's a lot of opportunities and evidence, whether it's with creative or workflow management, et cetera, that AI can, with Gen AI can give us. However, I think back to what we were even talking about and Mark mentioned, human touch is important. You got to supervise it. And even Al spoke about it, right? Like, if you don't supervise it, we've seen some of these examples even with OpenAI, it can hallucinate. And you cannot expect that as a business to serve your customer something that is wrong, right? Or leads to promises that your business can't fulfill. So that human touch is important, whether you think about strategy or even this example where from a productivity perspective, they can create lots of versions of creative. As a company, is your brand associated with the version that was created? You gotta go there and monitor and approve that, right? So the same thing with data. Trusted data is so important. A human has to understand not only the input into these AI models, but also the output. Factual check. Can you really factually tell the decisioning that happened with these recommendation engines and personalization engines?
Right. And Mark, you definitely seem to believe in humans babysitting AI, at least for now. How important a role do you think people are going to keep playing in leveraging AI?
I think people are going to continue to be absolutely critical. If you think about what is AI doing, it's about looking at one little component piece and saying, what is the next most likely component piece? That means AI is inherently giving you the median or the average answer to any query, which basically means if I'm asking it to generate a contract, it's generating me the average median contract for this need, not the best one, right? So it's going to always be the job of people to understand, okay, how do I, one, make sure I'm prompting this correctly so that it's actually going to be better work product, but two, how do I elevate the creative thought? One of the biggest concerns I have around AI is, today it's inherently reductive because it's generating all this content, it's trained on content from the internet, that content is by definition average, but all that means is that over time that average is going to go down unless we're continuing to come up with new and novel ways to up-level what it's both being fed and what's coming out of it.
Yeah, and I think Katie from Poshmark, you said it earlier today, AI is great at doing what's already done, not great at doing anything new. And with that, Faraz, has it changed the way you look at hiring? Has it changed the talent and the skill sets that you look to bring on with AI becoming more and more prevalent?
I'm not sure if it has changed, but it kind of just amplifies the need to hire people who are good with learning. I mean, a lot of time, or rather, if I was to go to an era where I got hired, I think companies were still hiring for knowledge. I think now companies hire for attitude. And if anything, this will just become more and more important.
So AI will be just this tool that helps you learn quicker in.
What you would expect from people who join you, that they will keep the interests of the company that you work for and the functional ahead or at parity with the evolution and changes that's happening in the market.
Right.
And I think it's a fallacy that it impacts only, say, the sales and the marketing function. It fundamentally affects every part of the cycle. Technology, as we have all realized, it's become ubiquitous. I mean, today when you do book an Uber, AI is working right there on your palm, finding the closest rider and estimating where that person, the last ride is being dropped. So this kind of has implications for every function in the organization, and you need to have people who can understand these implications everywhere.
And let's get to the product and engineering guy. What has this meant for you in the skill sets that you're looking for?
Yeah, there are two angles to it, right? So one is you should never ask any question related to coding anymore. It's like they can easily generate it and share that. So you should have some kind of a verifier to verify whether it is the original work. I mean, this is all the schools have the same problem as well. All the essays and all that stories, is it ChatGPT generated or is it like you, right? So we don't know that anymore. I mean, the fun fact is like 2 days ago, my recruiter was asking me, give me a question so that I can screen and then get to your interview, right? As a hiring manager, if I think about it, really, I have to get to a question which ChatGPT doesn't know. The first level screening, otherwise it's going to go bad, right? But again, the interesting part is, again, there is a study which I was reading a couple days back, which says, any marketer or any, engineering person, so basically 56% they can be efficient with AI. So what that means is, like, so far you've been doing a lot of manual work, other things which you don't have to do anymore. So thing is, yeah, so far, you might be doing certain things which might change. It's not going to take people away, from recruitment perspective, right? So we will interview them, but the thing is, they're going to use AI. AI will become more of an assistant, right? So that's where the first position is going to be. And you will be effective. So you will think a lot more different, a lot more strategic, which you haven't so far. So, and also when the other angle I was talking about is basically, how it actually helps us from hiring perspective is you can screen resumes, in a much faster way, right? So far we've been looking only for keywords. The keywords could be, it's a hit or miss, right? So a specific keyword I was looking for is like video and audio quality. I'll find it everywhere, right? So it's not going to give me contextual information about whether he's a good candidate or not. But now with AI, so we will be able to go like little deeper than that and screen quality resumes so that we don't waste their time and our time as well. So yeah.
Right. That makes sense. And Shivani, what about you from a skill set perspective? Has it changed what you're looking for in your team? Do you think it's about to change the kind of skill sets?
I agree with Faraz on we need to find not so much what we have as like knowledge and experience, but ability to learn. What I also think is important is, we've seen this trend, right? A marketer is not a pure marketer anymore. They need to understand what MarTech can do for them, right? Take it a level forward, right? And think about AI not just from the perspective of marketing, but the entire, workforce perspective. You gotta understand what technology is doing for you. So I would say you need to have ability to understand what it's doing for you, to supervise it, to work with it, to complement it.
So hiring for the right attitudes, hiring for people who are learning or can learn quickly, that seems to be the key takeaway. And when it comes to buying AI, tell me if anybody's pitched you anything that doesn't have AI in the last 1 year. I'm sure you haven't received those cold calls or cold emails, but what are you buying? And Mark, how do you get leaders to focus on the problem versus focus on AI?
Yeah, I think there's always going to be shiny object syndrome, and it always goes back to, I think as Shivani mentioned earlier, you have to start with the customer, start with the problem, and then come up with your own set of criteria. There's a reason that every major platform out there has like an RFP guide on their website. It's because they're trying to guide you and your thought process in terms of what you actually need. But I encourage people to instead completely be agnostic of tools, come with a set of criteria, and oftentimes, a lot of times, you find you don't actually need the tool that you thought you needed. You need an entirely different or simpler category of tooling. That said, in the context of AI, it's evolving so quickly. Right now, a lot of people are like, I want to build this, or I want to buy this platform over here. And I think in a lot of situations, the opportunity cost of selecting the wrong tool in its infancy today is greater than the value of waiting 12 to 18 months to see which winners emerge. So a lot of times in these conversations, we're saying, hey, given the level of effort of implementation and all of that work, can we wait and revisit in 6 months and then maybe 12 or 18 months, depending upon where the ecosystem is? And I think I think in the last time I looked at the Gartner tool index, there's over 300 marketing tools with AI in them. That's going to continue to be the case.
It became 10,000 yesterday.
Exactly. So I think I'm really encouraging people to think critically around what they need today and where they think the ecosystem will be 6 or 12 months from now. So that way you're not making decisions you're going to regret.
And Faraz, how do you balance this need to jump on the bandwagon, not miss the bus with what Mark's saying, is waiting for the right tools, waiting to see how they play out and making smarter business decisions for your customers versus buying AI?
Well, as they say, think big, start small, scale fast. And I think that's how we need to approach this space with 10,000 companies, because everyone has an AI attached to whatever they have to offer, and you can't ignore it. And you can't wait for an enterprise level something to evolve, because by that time it will be too late. So you need to, in organization, create space for such small experiments to be able to start small and then at least have a picture. And as Mark put it, be clear about the problem you are solving.
Right.
But start small, keep your eye on the big problem, and then scale fast. And again, I think in this era, you also need to accept that not every service provider and vendor would have solved the problem. So you need to learn together. You need to accept that you may not get every answer to what you are looking for.
Yeah, I love that, learn together with especially AI. That's sort of what it is, learning together. But Shivani, I'd love to get your perspective as well. What does it look like for a bank to balance a stable, trustworthy solution versus needing to innovate quickly, because it is a very competitive space?
It is, and believe it or not, there's lots of articles out there that says financial services, especially in this age of Gen AI, are already experimenting it, and it's kind of true. But it comes with what we were covering earlier. There's an AI policy in place. There's a committee in place that is a selection of people of diverse skill set to really balance out a legal view, a compliance view, your data science view, along with a hardcore business problem that you have focused on that you want to solve, right? One of them that we keep hearing is, and this is not specific to marketing, it applies across the board, is this chatbot ability, right? Like, can your chatbots really answer the customer's question well? Creative is another one, right? In order to do it, you have to have a trusted data. You need to have a very strong use case. You need to have traceability into what are you trying to accomplish, and was it able to do it? Can we trace it back, right? And the last one I would add, just to keep in mind, cost. It is a factor that goes into it. It's not only the cost of the product. These machine learning models, Gen AI kind of models, the amount of electricity and cooling they need, water they need, is quite a bit. So you have to be prepared of how would you take it to scale.
And Al, I definitely want to get your perspective because, again, the content space is very competitive. The need for innovation is extremely high. How do you balance the need to innovate, move quickly, deliver the newest and the greatest versus doing it right?
Yeah, in this case, again, it gives us, I mean, the overall AI gives us opportunity to fail fast, right? So you will learn fast, so you should be able to pivot, right? Otherwise, I mean, for agile organizations, yeah, it is easier, to incorporate AI into the ecosystem and then test it out. Like, Faraz was saying, like start small, right? And then if it works out in that area, you should take it, right? Just an example. So we've been generating some content. Like usually, content is fine, right? So we try to generate some images, right? So and then, interestingly, after the creative came out, so I was sitting with my legal counselor and asking that, okay, is it good to go? So he was saying, okay, this looks more like Roger Federer. I think we will be sued, right? So let's not move on with it, right? So there are things because AI doesn't know anything about your brand and who are your brand ambassadors and things like that. But it gives us a fast way to test out because previously the creative we had an agency to generate creatives. It takes about close to 4 weeks of lead time. So any campaign I want to run, I have to give like 4 weeks lead time to get something for execs to review, which is too much. But in this case, we generated Roger Federer in like half an hour. But you can say it's a good thing versus bad thing, but again, yeah. So I'm very excited about it. But again, it makes us fast, but you will learn, and then you have to pivot and try different things.
And do you see a world where humans don't need to babysit AI, where it's not a productivity tool, but just an output on its own?
Yeah, I read a lot of research papers related to AI, and also, we try to file for patents and stuff. In both my previous company as well as this company. So it's going to take way longer than you imagine, right? So humans are going to be there for a very long time. Because AI is very biased. It's subject to ethical problems. There are a lot of security problems. So yeah, so humans are not going to go away. But the only thing is, our jobs will change. Very similar to how software was introduced, right? It's just like, we've been doing math on papers, calculators, and then, now computers and all that, right? So software changed a lot of ways, how we work. Now MarTech is like mostly, like, we were talking about it, 80%, more than 80% it is tech, right? Similarly, AI will also change things, but the thing is AI is going to do it faster, comparatively, right? So because to adopt a software, it took us like, what, 20 years or something? But AI, you'll adapt faster because, in this case, you saw ChatGPT when it was launched. The app was downloaded by like ton of people. So none of the apps ever had this much traction, organic traction. When I was on Instagram, it was not that case, right? I mean, it took a long time for us to actually get to that peak, right? But ChatGPT was able to come to that peak faster. So that's the interesting thing about AI.
Mark, what do you think? Is there a world where humans don't need to watch it anymore?
I think there's going to be a world where over time we get better at training models, and therefore the amount of oversight needed will adjust over time. The same way content moderation has been a challenge in social. But I'm not overall worried about the role that people will play because I think, time and again, we've seen with new technologies that as productivity grows, elasticity comes with it, right? And I think as we get better at leveraging technology, people are going to want more and more of this. And yes, the nature of our jobs will change, and we might be monitoring it or managing it, but I think overall the output and the total value will be greater as a result.
Shivani, what are your thoughts?
I agree with everything that we said. A lot of lens in this room that we are putting is we as, our companies, how do we serve our customers, right? The place where I feel the world may change is productivity is also important for my time. I don't want to be searching and planning my trip, and we are seeing some of it, right? More than likely, as a consumer, a lot of my redundant tasks are going to be run by machine, right? We are looking at, let's get in front of that customer, in our case with the credit card offer. But imagine what? Potentially, there would be the customer who has outsourced it to a machine to find the best offer for them. So there'll be a machine-to-machine conversation that's happening at that point. But ultimately, humans are still needed on the consumer side to make that final decision, and on the company side to make sure you're giving them the right product. I don't think that's ever going to go away.
And for us, let's end this with you. Productivity and efficiency tool or replacement?
Well, your question reminds me of this joke that I came across some time ago, which talked about the factory of the future. And the way it painted in that article that the factory of the future would have a machinery to produce, and a man and a dog. Man will be there to feed the dog, and the dog will be there to make sure that the man does not touch the machinery. I don't think that future is anywhere close. So I think AI and machines will coexist with humans, and humans will get smarter. I think the way we need to approach is that AI has just elevated the baseline of knowledge. I can't expect my 12-year-old son to go through the same learning process that I have, because his knowledge baseline will be dependent on the tools that he has access to, and that's how it will be built. Does not take the need away for the humans to exist.
Right, love it. So that's all the time that we have, and I love our takeaways. AI is dumb, and it will be a great productivity and efficiency tool, and I feel like that's how we've all been seeing it. It's going to make us more efficient, more effective, more productive. And on that note, thank you, folks. Lovely conversation.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening.